Could we get started, please? Welcome everybody to Town Council meeting, 9th of Jan. First of all, I'd like David to say prayers, please.
Okay. Lord God, as we start this new year with its challenges and opportunities, we ask for your blessing and guidance upon us. We pray for all those who live and work in this town. Help us to work together for the benefit of all residents and for the common good. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Yes, I'd just like to welcome our guests this evening, Paddy Tippin and Inspector Rack. They'll be coming in later on. Apologies, please. Yes, Bob?
Pete Lippiat and Rebecca.
Yeah.
Councillor Susan Bayshaw and Councillor Charlie Robb. I'll tell you his name in a minute, don't worry. Charlie Robb. Both illness.
Rebecca's holiday and
Yes.
illness of his wife.
Pete.
Yeah.
Declaration of interest.
I've had one on planning.
You've got one on planning. Right. Any more?
No, I can't. Chair, I can't see that there's
No.
anything to do with
No.
gardening or whatever on this, so I'm not going to
Notification of lobbying? Nope.
Chair, I'm going to come in there. It really isn't my patch, but I have been lobbied about an action that's going off down Billy Hall's Lane. It isn't on here, but it's a planning problem. I'm just making you aware that that's what what's going on down there. It appears to be an unplanned move that's going on down there, and I'm investigating it.
Is it? It's the minutes now to pass them for the 12th of December, Town Council meeting and Town Hall meeting on the 20th. We've had no modifications to minutes, so we'll take them as read, Bob. Yes?
Yes, I'll formally move as read.
Chair, I'm just going to ask you a question on that because I've been in bed for at least 2.5 days and suffering from crap like a flu, and so has Susan. And by the time you get these minutes and try to read them, it just doesn't sink in. What leeway do we get from people like that, or people that's on holiday and turn up back here who haven't read the minutes? It just seems to be that it's done and dusted, and you can't get back into it, which sometimes you need to do that.
Well, any other council, if any councillor's not at a meeting, the following meeting they cannot vote to pass them.
I'm not saying they're not at a meeting, I didn't say that at all. I said if they're on holiday, they could come to this meeting today, they could go on holiday tomorrow, or whenever you manage to get these typed up, and not be present to evaluate them.
Yes, Bob.
And such as me, when I've been ill, what do you make for that?
I'm sure the chair will give leeway for illness and availability for.
Yeah. I think you're right there. Oh, thank you.
Can I just say also that these minutes were sent out before Christmas, in addition to the papers going out as well. They were sent out before Christmas.
You want to tell me exactly how they were sent out before the last meeting? Because sometimes we have to wait 6 weeks or more.
No, they were done within 3 days of the meeting because of Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas for everybody is a very busy period.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure they're out for you.
Try to look at these just before we come here, for at least a week or 6-7 days before.
Is there anything you want to different? If not, I'll move to the vote.
I don't see much of a problem. My only concern was that we had a police update, and they sent police CSO Richards, and they put her in a position where she wasn't able to answer any questions, which was very, very unfortunate. and I think it just shows.
But that's not part of the minutes.
No,
Say again?
That's not within
no, that's an issue.
the minutes. It's an issue.
Outside the minutes.
This year, and we'll come into that very shortly, so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
point is then towards it there.
why wasn't it in the minutes? Because I actually said that to her. She gave us false information. She had to adjust it. She didn't know any answers. Why wasn't then that recorded in the minutes? Because that's on. Go listen to the tape. And if I have to come back and listen to the tape, so I will do.
You
I'm
must.
asking you the question.
Yeah,
Why
they're
wasn't
right
it
to.
included in the minutes?
That's your prerogative.
She didn't know
That's
what
your
to say.
prerogative.
Right. Can I formally move and
Yes.
get on to the substantial
Yes.
agenda for tonight?
I'll second it, Chris.
Right. Okay. All in favour? Any against? Abstain? One abstention. Right, Steve. Could you give us a police update, please?
Of course, can. I'll stand here so I'm not back to you. Don't worry. Just pick up on something that Dave mentioned there about false numbers. And we weren't given false numbers last time. I think the problem was is that the explanation hadn't been given to you about what those numbers were and how they relate. So the numbers that I've provided, and Chris Thompson will reply to me, I know we've got an email from me regarding how those figures translate, is Broxtowe North is divided into 3 wards in the policing world, which is Eastwood, Eastwood North and Eastwood South. So when you provided those numbers last time, those 3 areas are Broxtowe North as an entirety. So to give you an idea about Eastwood, that represents Eastwood South in that particular ward. Eastwood North entails Orsworth, Brimsley, Cossall, Eastwood North and Greasley, and Greasley. Eastwood South is Greasley, Watnall, Kimberley, Nuttall East, Nuttall West and Strello. So in providing those figures, you provided absolutely correct figures, however, perhaps didn't explain properly how those figures related to the different areas. So hopefully that answers your point.
Well, because the figures didn't add up, so if it's simple arithmetic and they
No.
don't add up, then I don't think the figures are right.
In that case, if that explanation you've just given, the figures would never add
Of
up.
course they're not.
And
And that's the
3
point.
separate zones.
No, that's not the point, because that's absolutely not what we've had before, never had that before, and suddenly we're changing the criteria to say, oh, the figures won't get up, just really what we're telling you.
No, I think it's... Have you changed the reporting? Slightly.
No.
'Cause last time you only gave us the 2 bits, particularly to the Eastwood Town area,
Yeah, that's
rather
right.
than...
Yes,
the-
that's right. Yes, so what we do, and again, Chris has got an email from me regarding this, is how we report matters to you has changed owing to the fact that there is no longer a Community Safety Partnership performance analyst that provides the very minute detail and data relating to a particular ward, and what we have is an overall and overarching figure. So those 3 crime statistics that you were provided with, which relate to Eastwood, Eastwood North and Eastwood South, covers the entire Broxtowe district. Behind that is the very small numbers that you require, and again, I'll take some guidance from Chris in due course when I get that.
Right out.
Thank you. Can I just express my wonderment that to send somebody here to sit and talk to this council who really didn't know, hadn't got a clue what she was talking about, and she admitted that, and that wasn't fair on her, because we were hitting her with information and she didn't know, and that was totally incorrect thing to do. And I have every sympathy with that PCSO.
Anyway, I think we need to move on.
We'll move on, I agree. So on that point then, like I say, Eastwood, which covers the Eastwood South area, particularly relevant to this, the sort of all crime figures for the year to date is 697 crimes year to date, which is a plus 25 comparison to the year last year, so 672 at this very moment in time. The key highlights around that are violence against person, of which there have been 187 crimes. Now, something that, again, perhaps Deb Richard didn't necessarily express is there are some anomalies around that regards a National Crime Recording Standards audit. So I'm not here to say people should be fearing walking down the street or that they're going to get assaulted every 5 seconds owing to the fact that there is a 23% increase. What that is Nottinghamshire Police has recently undertaken an audit whereby incidents that in the past may have been closed down without a crime number, for example, that we might seem trivial or not recorded under violence, have now been done so. owing to an audit which now puts us in line with the Home Office accounting rules and the National Crime Recording Standard. So, as I mentioned again to Chris on an email, is the binary data that sometimes we provide to meetings such as this mean very little without an explanation behind it to say why that might be the case. Okay, so hopefully that explains that to people. Again, key crime types that again I'll try and keep this brief of burglary, probably not surprising in that respect, burglary non-dwelling, which incorporates sheds and commercial premises. So again, year-to-date figures I'll talk about. Burglary dwelling has been 22 crimes of burglary dwelling, and burglary non-dwelling have been 44. The burglary dwelling statistic is a standstill statistic, that is, there were 22 compared to this time last year, and the burglary non-dwelling has been a 57% increase, which is 44 crimes compared to 28 this time last year. Other standout crimes are shoplifting, of which there have been 138 offences so far this year, which is a slight decrease of 3 from 141 last year, so that's remained consistent at this moment in time. I'll just move on to the last 2 weeks, which might give you a little bit of an update as to where any recent issues are. Now, there have been 47 crimes recorded over the last 2 weeks for this area, which is an increase of 11 compared to 36 compared to the same period 2 weeks beforehand. Again, in there, violence with injury is an increase, and vehicle offences have been 6 of, which is an increase of 4. Criminal damage, there have been 13 offences there, with it, which is an increase of 3. So that is a direct comparison. So if you take 2 weeks prior from today, it's the 2 weeks prior to that, so over a 4-week period, that is a comparison between the two to give you an idea of where the current threats are regarding that. Now, the binary data which you've provided in the past, Chris Thompson sent me an email, for example, which related to Eastwood North, and it mentioned, I think there was 12 crimes for a month period. And within those 12 crimes, there were 21 instances of criminal damage. Well, that doesn't make much sense to me, because clearly you can't have called 12 crimes a month if there's 21 instances of criminal damage. So, something I've sent to Chris and I await a response on is around those binary data that's provided needs to be accurate, it needs to be reflective of any current trends and threats, and it needs the context behind it. So, for example, the audit that's taken place, which might show an increase in crime figures. So hopefully those bare statistics that I've read out there will give you some context about what the current threats are. Would that help with regards to the simple binary data? Go on, Dave.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this from this position, or I have to go and sit over there and put the question time, which I'm quite prepared to do. You're talking about premises, and I'm hearing, and I'm only hearing, actually I've not been around, I heard that the 3 tons was quite extensively damaged on New Year's Eve or the day before by 2 of our local villains who, in most people's opinion, and this is coming to me, that they seem to be afraid of, and they can do what they like when they like. Can you tell me what happened to those people who destroyed that pub, or somebody that's just come in, tried to make a living, not been there that long, and this is what happened to these people? It's not right, and it needs to be sorted. What are you doing sorted? What have you done sorted?
I don't think there's any individuals that the police are scared of or sort of afraid to tackle in there.
I'm only telling you what the public come up and tell me.
Right.
Whether you want to go and say, I'll stand up and say we're not, but it appears to be
Yeah,
that the public think you are.
On Wednesday, we're speaking with the 3 Tons manager, licensee, DP. They're coming to see myself, licensing officers at Rochdale Borough Council, Shared Services, Foster Only on Wednesday. We're going to discuss not just that, but a number of issues relating to the 3 Tons, which clearly, for the fact that in 2 days' time we'll be talking with them, I won't discuss further here.
They're not going to tell me any outcome of the perpetrators that did the damage.
I think you know already, Dave. I can't say anything about sub judice proceedings with regards damage to a pub.
Thank you, Inspector Reg.
You went through the areas fairly quickly. It might be helpful if you just could send us a map, say with your terminology to what our terminology, because there's a bit of confusion there.
Yeah.
So east and south no longer doesn't exist
I'm going to
as a council.
damn Chris Thompson here, unfortunately.
No problem.
In response to it, I have sent Chris an email.
I need to check that out.
And Mr. Tippin's seen it as well, where I've said,
Yeah.
this is what, we can't provide perhaps what you've had in the past,
No.
but I'm prepared to provide this.
Yeah.
I'm yet to receive a response. And that's why when I did say there is that in the pipeline, quite happy to do it.
Yeah, it's just so we know what you're talking about. And
Not got a problem with that at all, Bob. I'm just waiting for a
And
response.
the other thing, of course, I've given the offer before through email, but I will repeat it. This new chamber has got 4 U2 facilities.
Yes.
So it may be that if it's more operational and better to do it by video link rather than by you come in here if you've got other operational reasons on.
Yeah.
That offer's always open to you.
Absolutely, and I know.
Even if you only got the walk from upstairs to downstairs.
Clearly a lot easier when we're upstairs, particularly for me. But some of that, and I know Paddy will back me up with this, is we won't come to every single town council meeting. It won't be me. It won't necessarily be a PCSO that hasn't necessarily provided with the correct information with the right detail. And for operational reasons, that will be the case.
Yeah.
But as I've always promised, is where we can get here, we will get here. I know previously Dean Spalding hung up and said, sorry, we can't make it, but so be it. So, yeah. But
I'm just saying, once in every 3 or 4, 3 months, this sort of thing is.
Appreciate that, Bob.
Yeah, but we are cautious of what is required for operational reasons.
Right. Yes, Tony.
I've heard something that's gone off today down at the Island Shop again. I believe it's been hit again. My concerns for that is it seems to be going hit quite a lot. Is there anything that they can do to make this a bit better, and also you? Because my concerns is if the kids are going in there to buy sweets, at some point somebody's going to get really hurt. Who's ever going into rob is going to cause some damage to some kids, and I'm so worried it's going in quite often. That shop is down there. Is there anything that they can do to help stop doing what's happening? And is there anything you can advise them to do?
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not going to cover that. Clearly, it won't be me that's going in there. Clearly, I can get somebody to go in there. And
My
the worst
concern is
case
the
there,
kids just
discuss
go
some
in
of the crime prevention advice about how they should operate and how many people they should have at any particular one time, and just prevent that harm both to A, the shop, and B, as you recognise there, some vulnerable children as well. So, yeah, that's fine. Not a
my
problem.
concern.
Consult that visit.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public, please? Yes, Colin.
Could I ask a question through Mr. Tippin, please, Mr. Mayor?
Certainly can.
I've lived in Eastwood, Mr. Tippin, for over 80 years. I remember this town when it was very small. It must have been one of the proudest towns in the country. I've seen it expand north, south, east and west. The criminal activities now, it's getting, well, it's always been regrettable. It seems to be that Broxtowe had permission to send all its troublemakers to our area. Yeah. And I'm hoping that someone from Princess Street will elaborate on this. It's almost a no-go area for the police, let alone the residents.
That's true, then.
Well, I do know about Princess Street, but this is an operational matter, and I think Inspector Ragg will be careful what he says.
Yes.
But I am confident that there have been police operations down Princess Street.
That have, and obviously we spoke previously about Princess Street in these meetings where we've undertaken warrants, we've seized vehicles from numerous people there. We've been and visited several houses where we've letter dropped around please give the police information and advice. And I've spoken at length in the past about premises closure orders and how we can actually take people from their homes based upon the fact that they have committed antisocial behaviour, crime in the vicinity of their house. And anybody that reads a local paper will know I'm not afraid of going into court and going into bat for anybody that's in this area. Rebecca Price from Madison Villas no longer lives at her house because she made the lives of her neighbours so miserable that I went to court and said, I want a premises closure order, please, and she's now gone out to the home. But I can't do that on my own, and I've explained that many times. Well, I can't simply go to court and say, well, I think this is happening, I think that's happening. It does need people to stand beside the police and say, here is the information, here is the evidence, you can rely upon this in court, Inspector, and I'll quite happily present it on your behalf.
Yes, but have we got any method of sending all these troublemakers back to where they came from?
Housing's not my issue, so I won't tread on toes of housing authorities.
I want to leave it up to Ian, and I don't know this lady's name, but they've got the first-hand information of Princess Street. They are terrified to open their mouths and tell the truth for reprisals.
Yeah.
They are under permanent threat. And I'll hand it over to you, madam.
Well, let me just say this. The law was changed. I was instrumental in changing the law. And we're now in a position where you don't have to go and give evidence yourself in court. That was the point that Inspector Ragg was making. If you're confident and confide in the police and give them the information, the police and the council jointly will take the action.
Well, my son lives next door to Douglas, and he can't go out on his yard
Yeah, I know
when
who you
they're
are.
out there.
I know who you are.
And
I
if
know
you'd have
who
come
you're
on
talking
Sunday
about.
morning, the whole yard was covered in lager cans and vodka bottles. We cleared them up today. But, I mean, how long has it got to go on like this?
Yeah.
And it's my son's own home, and next door is a private house.
And you'll
which
know
he
that.
got, you know.
And you'll know, therefore, that we letter dropped your son. And we've asked your son, therefore, to come forward and say, if you can provide the police with the evidence and information in order to make your quality of life better.
Well, actually, my son's not a well person at the moment.
Right, okay.
So, but as a matter of fact, I'm living there at the moment.
Okay.
And I've seen it all.
Right. So the important thing is to share what you've seen with the police.
Well, we've given them in the
Yeah,
letter.
I was just going to make the point.
Last meeting. We've all said we'll give statements.
Good.
We've not heard anything since.
Yeah. And those statements will be taken, and I spoke with Bodley, PCSO Deb Richards on Sunday about those statements and how we'll be taking those statements. I'm not going to go, again, this is recorded about who, what's and the where's and who we've spoken to. So I'm not going to go into a great detail about who we're taking statements off and what premises we're going to be targeting. But you know already the fact that you've just shown that letter that we've said, please come provide with evidence and information, we'll go and do it. It's not a problem going to do it. It's not an overnight fix, and I'm sure you respect that yourself anyway. So some of the things that we did do when we conducted warrants, when we seized some of the vehicles that they were using and those sort of things, that's the short-term hit sometimes. But yes, I respect the fact that there has to be long-term solutions. Now, if the particular housing association doesn't have the powers to go and evict them from their house as a result of breach of tenancy, then the Antisocial Behaviour Act gives us that power around closure orders.
Now, number 7, which is the council house, we've got 2 children in that house. I wouldn't like my children to be in that house because the druggies are going in.
Number 7 is currently subject to a community protection notice warning, okay, which is one of the steps that we need to take place in order to get to the end game. So we can't simply go into a court and say, we've given this person 0 opportunities to change their lifestyle, please close it. We've actually got to take through due process to make sure that when we get to court, we can say to them the fact that this is where we are, we've given them this opportunity, we've offered them this help, we've given them this warning, and actually they've not heeded it, so I've come here now to say, want this out.
But I worry about those children because I don't think they're safe.
That's fine, I'll raise that, and if we need to put some multi-agency safeguarding matters in there, then we will.
I mean, after the raids on Princess Street,
Yes.
there were 2 raids, 2 houses.
Yes.
And the following day, she had the door open and I was going past, and she said, F you, to me. And I've had the finger put up at me, I don't know how many times by not mentioning the name.
Yes.
Next door to me.
Yeah, and if that's something that we're privy to with the evidence that hopefully you provide
Because
us.
they're blaming me, you see, for the raids.
Right.
Well,
You must see the other side of the coin, sir.
Yeah,
These people are under threat from telling the truth.
No, that's fine.
They dare not disclose the
They're
truth.
afraid.
For retaliation.
And I know that Paddy alluded to it earlier around anonymity and hearsay evidence and some of the things that you don't have to go to court. I can go to court on your behalf. But what I can't do is just go to court on a whim and a prayer. I can't go on.
Yeah, but
simply-
you wouldn't be. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've been coming here now for 4 years or more, first as a member of the public and then as a councillor. And I know that you've had at least 4 meetings. The police have taken residents into that room there. They've took all the statements, and I can understand the frustration because nothing ever seems to happen.
Okay, I'll just stop you there for a minute then. I took on this role, as in this area, Clearhouse, Broxtowe South, on the 1st of February last year. Okay, since that time, we've done a number of these things. We spoke about 2 people that I spoke to personally in that room there. I provided them with my personal contact details of email and telephone number and said, please provide me with the evidence and information that I need. 0 contact from those individuals.
Yeah, but
I appreciate that's up to them.
but one of them made a statement that on 2 occasions she'd already given this information to different police officers, and it seems to have disappeared into the ether, and nothing ever seems to happen.
And when you talk about a statement, you mean a written formal statement
Yes.
of evidence? Right,
Yeah.
well, I can honestly say I've never seen that.
No, well, I mean,
They never mentioned.
knowing how office work is and one thing and another and computers, it can disappear. But these people are that frustrated, I feel sure they feel like buying a gun and shooting the bastards. Excuse my French. Because it cannot be a nice environment. I used to work down Princess Street when I was working on the tools, and it used to be a lovely place. There were some families who would say, oh, they're rough. But they were nothing like these criminals that you've got there now, and surely, for God's sake, you can get them out.
And that's exactly what Inspector Rao has said. And there are numerous cases in Nottinghamshire where the police and the council, because they need the council's help, have worked together to get people evicted. But the essential point is this, that people have got to give the evidence. And as I said earlier on, I know about this because I was the person or one of the people involved who got the law changed so that people didn't have to give evidence themselves. The police and the public bodies could give evidence on their behalf.
Yes, Andrew?
Is there any chance of any police surveillance down there rather than it being public surveillance?
Clearly not a topic that I can discuss in this environment.
Again, I can honestly say that there has been, and I can't say no more than that. Yes. Yes, Brian, sorry.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Are we, question time to ask Mr Tippin?
Paddy's coming up next, but...
shall I leave it till then?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
This is the crime bit here.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I would endorse really what he's saying because, you know, there was a robbery down at the shop down New Eastwood. Now I get my papers from there, and he said to me, it's 10 days ago since it's happened or whatever, and nobody's been back to me. Now, I took him at his word, but when I checked, the police did go down. So really, I endorse what you're saying. Being a councillor for many years, you have to give them information. And I fell flat on my face many times with people who didn't set me up. But when it come to asking them, they didn't come forward, and I was left. So I hear what they're saying here, but we do need, and anonymity is something that, yes, people do threaten. But in the case of this guy down New Eastwood, you know, I made absolutely sure that, and you have been. So you have to be very careful, really.
I'll just say,
yes.
You know, obviously I live on the same street, and it's been bloody awful. And a couple of years ago, there was a certain gentleman lived at number 6. Obviously, I did what I thought was the right thing.
Diary.
Filling a diary sheet, giving information, colour of cars, registration numbers. When they raided the property, they didn't find a thing. It was like the M1. You couldn't get to your own property because there were that many cars. They were queuing up to come down the street and going back round. But I don't know. You tell me. Either they'd been ticked off and it had been moved, or when they were evicted, the property, the council sent in a private company to take their property into storage. They refused to go in the property. There were that many dirty needles. So you tell me how the police raid a property and can't find any drugs.
Is that a dirty needle, not a drug, though, is it? I appreciate what you mean around that. And some
I mean,
of that is...
he wasn't just talking one or two. He said the house was full of them. There was people taking the children into that property. So
it's a consequence of drugs.
I respect that, but obviously I can find 100 dirty needles in a house. It doesn't mean to say that I can do something to drugs or trafficking in controlled drugs and things like that. That's not part of the evidence. Some of that can help, around the premises closure that I was just talking about. Some of these things do relate to drugs and the misuse of drugs and people knocking on doors at all times of day and night and so on and so forth. Now all those things corroborate matters that don't on their own simply make that, and you'll be aware of. And the police are very frustrated, obviously, when we conduct warrants where we've got a great deal of intelligence to support our warrant and we go in there and find nothing. Sometimes that's bad luck.
it just seems to be that obviously this certain, obviously we won't go into any names, but this certain set of people just seem to, I don't know, they just seem to walk around like they're, out of home.
No.
And you just think, I've got to go past them properties to get to my property. I've just had a brand new car. I don't want a brick through my window. I don't want my car torching. I don't want my disabled son being intimidated. I've lived there 20 years and I don't feel like it's my home. Every time you come down, there's Stella cans, there's empty beer cans all over the floor, there's dirty nappies all over the floor, there's more rubbish on the floor than there is in dustbins. It's absolutely disgusting. It's a dump.
Some of those things are obviously not police matters, I'm sure you
I know they're not, but I've run the council and the council told me there's nothing they can do about it. That's what I was told by Rochdale Borough Council. Well, it's people coming to those properties that are doing it. Instead of putting their empty can in a dustbin, no, let's just chuck it on the street. Because they don't live there. They can clear off. I'm sick of opening my doors and finding everybody else's rubbish. And it's the same. And it's the same people. It's the same people coming to the same properties.
And clearly that's something I can take back to the local authority. With our discussions, and like I say, Paddy's also briefed around Princes Street and over that. It's not something we don't know about. It's something, yes, we recognise, not the police's responsibility to go around and street cleanse and so on. Obviously there are teams around that. But again, all those sort of things, I don't know who is or is not going to give a statement and the like, but all those sort of things help around getting the problem people out of problem houses.
I haven't got a problem in coming, and giving statements, because I want something done about it. I'm not living in fear of coming out my own home.
Good, well you'll have had a letter from the police.
Yeah, I have, and I've spoken to the PCSF.
There you go.
I don't mind doing that, but on the understanding that none of those find out.
Yeah.
Because I've still ultimately got to live there.
But it means we can go about that.
Tony?
Yeah, the shoplifting figures seem quite high. I accept that you say they're two less than the same period last year. Can you just confirm the period you're talking about,
So
what the figures are, and the fact that it is just Eastwood Town Centre, because it doesn't include IKEA or Kimberley, it just seems high.
It is high, yes. So 1st of April until today. So as much as it's high, it's consistent with what it was last year. So what did I say? It was 113 compared to 115 off the top of my head. So consistent with that. We have recent relatively recently run a pilot with the Shopwatch radios, and the local authority funded Shopwatch radios for 6 months to test whether or not that would be a suitable means to prevent shop theft. As it transpires, we haven't continued to fund that project because actually, statistically, it didn't satisfy our purposes of reducing shop theft. We actually put that to the businesses themselves, and obviously aware that these are multi-million pound industries for the most part, a lot of these shops, and said, hey, if you want to take it on yourselves, we've given you a flavour of what it looks like and how you can make it work for yourselves, because they are businesses in the first and foremost, and they didn't take it up. So that's a lot of that's their responsibility. I appreciate certainly the local policing team who will always be keen on shop theft and sort of making sure that shoplifting is a target and a priority for us, albeit we are linked to the animals about how we go about that. But some of that is about confidence, and the fact that a lot of stores are confident in what they report to the police, so there's no difference between a 50p smart or a £500 cartload of shopping. So there are some positives, shall we say, around some of that reporting.
Yes, Andrew.
It was just when you know when you do the raids on the houses, do you ever take the dogs in with you and things like that? Because then they'll find drugs, and the lady says that there were drugs in there.
Anybody that saw the recent Princess Street raid will know the fact that truck dogs went in.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, Josie.
You say there's no longer a community safety partnership. What's superseding that then?
No, there is.
No, there is a community safety partnership.
Oh, I thought you said it was no longer one.
The analyst who worked
There's no community safety partnership.
has left.
Thank goodness for that.
There was a word on the end.
Yes, Bob.
Just on operational, it's two matters. One point out for, if you turn the clock back 15 years, when Eastwood had the CCT system, we had our own special shoppers process where certain of our clients that we regularly knew, particularly bad for shoplifting, would be passed on shop by shop on the shop radio, and said as soon as they entered, for instance, the co-op, the co-op security guide would come up and show them round and be their personal shopper. It worked. It cut theft down considerably. And back on the CCTV, I do know, if Tony, if you could please use your influence at Broxtowe, there is a CCTV camera still on the pole at the end of Princess Street. If that's made to work, there should be good intelligence from the Broxtowe CCT room, wherever it is now, that can back you up on your evidence gathering, because that is evidential quality. Should be, and you should be able to use it on such things. And it's number 9. It's only the 9th house along, so it should be well inside that camera, from what I can remember of it.
I've already spoke to Derek Mostow about that at Broxtowe Borough Council.
But please try to make sure that you use what you've got.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Don't worry about it, it'll be there. So,
right.
Basically, there's a bit of funding around it, but it'll get sorted.
Can you let me know if it doesn't?
I will do that. I'm wholly confident it will.
Just one more question then, Inspector Wright. You know the CCTV cameras at Hilltop?
Yeah.
Are they still in use?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because the lady at the paper shop got robbed the other week at Knife Point, and she said that they never worked.
There's a remote monitoring station at Broxtowe Shared Service Site, Foster Avenue, where we can look at all of the cameras that are working.
I'm not talking about the one on the opposite side of the road, I'm talking about the one above her shop.
They were disconnected when the one that's found at the other side.
So it's the one outside her shop that's right. Okay. I was
So
going to say
that
the one at
one
the top
works.
is working as well, you know.
Yeah.
That one doesn't work then?
Well, it was a local record.
It was.
Which
It's not
wasn't
connected.
evidential quality at all.
No, it wasn't. It didn't get brought into the system.
No.
And it's now at Callum Hall.
Yeah.
Do you think that if we had CCTV back within the high street, it would help?
if you have an operator, just look at these for cameras, because when you've got the number of cameras that are being monitored, the chance of picking something up is slim. When you go to that sort of number of cameras, you can only look at so many at a time.
Yeah, but the point of cameras are, first of all, for prevention,
yeah,
but secondly, to provide evidence.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, Bob, to say that people can't look at all the cameras all the time, but it's the preventive element and the fact that after the event, the camera's high enough quality.
Yeah.
You've talked a bit about that at the moment. Then it's the evidence that you can provide that's useful. But let me just make it clear, and I think everybody understands this. CCTV is a matter for the district council, so not a matter for the police. Although there have been some fairly lively discussions between myself, members of the police and the local councils. The sensible thing would be to have one system across Nottinghamshire that was joined up, and it isn't at the moment.
But you would like to see some more CCTV within the
Can
I think it's got a lot of value, and as I say, it's a matter for the council, not for me. There have been discussions about saying, well, why do you all run different systems? Why don't you have a common system across Nottinghamshire? Why don't you get the new digital cameras that are better evidentially, and those discussions continue into the future.
The Broxton ones are digital because they've been digital for a long while, but I would pick, in those discussions, if you stick it all into one control room, you're going to have the problem with the number of eyes looking at screens. The new digital technology does mean that you could have satellite sites viewing, as long as they're in the evidential, like we did at Eastwood Police Station, with clear controls. The police officers wasn't allowed in the control room because of keeping the evidence separate. There is ways it can be done. I'm sure local volunteers with the correct training, it's a sort of job that can be done, and it gives more eyes for you people to look over.
And there are a number of councils that use volunteers to review evidence.
Yeah.
But as I say, this is a matter for the councils primarily, not a matter for the police.
I'm suggesting that as a way forward.
As an ex-Chubb employee, I know that CCTV is a deterrent. It does make them think. It's just certainly when they've got the big spotlights on them, when they get too close to the doors.
Yes, David.
The key is to CCTV cameras is they're very powerful as Paddy says, as a deterrent. They are powerful as a deterrent, but you've got to tell people they're there. People won't see them. Down south they did a project whereby they didn't have cameras all, but they put signs all the way around the town centre, and crime reduced by 30%. So there's no point having a camera if you're not going to tell people they're there.
Yeah, the
so
Chubb ones, just when somebody gets too close to the building or thing, the Chubb ones just get big flashlights and they just come on, and it's a deterrent rather than, anything else. I think they do work as a deterrent, definitely.
Yes, David.
I'm just going to come back and agree with Bob. It's all right having multiple cameras and more cameras and more cameras, but when it goes into the control room, you've got to have enough operators to look at all the cameras. And I would suggest at the moment that doesn't happen, neither in Brox, so Nottingham CCTV control room. I've been in there, I've seen how many cameras they have to look at, and it's quite easy to miss. So maybe what he's talking about is something really to look at. And we're just on about letting them know they were there. And if you walk into Nottingham Railway, it does say CCTV camera and surveillance is operating in this area quite clearly. And in Nottingham, we trialled it. I don't know if it still works, but we had some with loudspeakers on them. So actually, if somebody did something, we could talk to them. And the first one that happened was a guy flipped a fag out in the Market Square, and they were just waiting for him. And somebody said, "Would you mind picking that cigarette up, sir?" And he went, "Sorry, sir, no, that's not the right answer. Would you mind picking that cigarette up?" And he went, third time, said, "Would you mind picking it?" And he did it explain to him, and it cost him 600 quid. Just to, and that to me is something that we probably should enhance now, to say, you know, we can actually talk to the whoever and let them know that either the police are on the way or whatever. So it's something that we need to look at.
All right, Paddy, would you like to get up and give us a what's it for the future?
I'm pleased to be here, Keith. Thank you very much for inviting me. I need to be cautious what I'm saying,
of course,
because Keith is one of my bosses and Tony Harper is another of my bosses. They're both senior members of the Police and Crime Panel. I'll be taking a report to the Police and Crime Panel on the 6th of February around next year's budget. All of you are involved in the local policy making, and you'll know that for all public bodies things are pretty tough and tight, and in the prayer we had at the beginning, the challenges and opportunities of next year. So the challenge next year is the same challenge that we've had over the past 5 years. In broad terms, the police budget in Nottinghamshire is about £190 million. Over the past 5 years, we've had to save £54 million, and that's 25% of the budget. And next year, it's not quite so challenging, but we're looking to make savings again of between £4 and £5 million. That contrasts with the current year, where we're having to make a saving of £12 million. Now, why is that necessary? Well, people talk to me a lot about the council tax, and that's important, but we need to recognise that in large terms, the police are paid for by the government. In Nottinghamshire, 70% of the funding for the police comes by way of government grants, and the government grant has been reducing year on year. Next year it reduces a little bit again. If we put up the council tax by just under 2%, that helps bridge the difference, but there's still a funding gap next year. Ultimately, there are some tough choices about the budget, and maybe you talk to me about that, because we've not got firm and fixed ideas about the budget, but we've done quite a lot of savings over the year. Steve is based in the council offices in Beeston. We've moved away from the idea that we're going to have police stations everywhere. I notice that it'll get nicked, Steve, if you're not careful. He's brought his BlackBerry with him, but increasingly officers have got new technology. Let me say, you know you're in trouble if you're talking to a police officer and you can see yourself reflected in the camera on the vest, and all frontline officers now have cameras on the vest. They don't run all the time, but you're told when they're going to come on, and that's good because it changes people's behaviour. It also kind of monitors the behaviour of the police, but it's good in evidential terms, and we're trying to move away from the old paper-based system to a much more unified digital system. If you're cheeky, and I know some of the people around the table quite well, there are one or two cheeky monkeys here, but have a look in the front of the police response car, and where your glove compartment is, you'll see there's an onboard computer, and we're in a position really now where we're able to keep people out on the streets much longer than in the past, and I think that must be right. So we've done a lot of things around the estate, and I'm really grateful for the help of the town council allowing the police to come here, and I think it will be in everybody's interest to do that. You notice that in the centre of Nottingham, the old central police station has gone. We've moved in the top of Maid Marian Way, Byron House, with the City Council, and working together. I mean, Steve, earlier on when we were talking about the 3 tons, we're talking about working with the council's licensing officers, making things work together really has been important. We've also kind of done things more regionally. In rough terms, all serious crime, all homicide, all serious crime is dealt with on a regional basis. Let me give you an example. You all know the tragic story of the Philpott family. The parents burnt their 5 children to death. Clearly that was a Derbyshire case, but actually the investigating officer was a Nottinghamshire officer. So kind of doing things across the region has allowed us to save money. So we've done that around serious crime, we've done it around forensics, we've got a common legal team, and that move will continue. Road traffic policing, dogs policing, firearms are all done on that kind of basis now. So Steve's been exceptionally modest tonight. He talked about the way that the crime recording system has changed, and it has changed. It's changed dramatically. If the crime recording system hadn't have changed, we'd have been in a position in Eastwood of showing a decrease in crime rather than it going up slightly, 1.8% as it is at the moment. But crime is up all over the country because of the crime recording system changes. In Northumberland, for example, crime is up by 45%. There's been no real change in the pattern of crime. It's just the way it's been recorded. Greater Manchester's police have got a backlog of 30,000 crimes that they've got to reclassify. But as well as that, the nature of crime has changed a great deal. And let me just give you 3 examples. First of all, who would have thought that terrorism was such a real and immediate threat? You'll have seen in Nottinghamshire and across the East Midlands, for the first time, armed officers have been patrolling the streets. Always been armed officers. It's not been quite as overt as it's been over the Christmas period. The threat level hasn't changed. There's a discussion going on in the East Midlands and in Nottinghamshire that we need to have more of an armed response. We've had a little bit of an uplift, but not by comparison with elsewhere in the country. The Metropolitan Police, for example, are having an extra 800 armed officers. Well, our capability's gone up a little bit. It's not gone up that significant. And there's a discussion going on around that. I mean, clearly you need to protect the capital city, but just look at France, Nice and Normandy, hardly centres of big population where there's been terrorist attack. And on top of that, spending more money on intelligence. It's a sensible way to fight terrorism is through better intelligence. The other big growth area has been around sexual crimes. The figures for Nottinghamshire are high, but to a large extent these are historic incidents that are being reported, but they're recorded in the current year. And you'll know, because you're all well read, that there's a big inquiry into abuse in former children's homes in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. A number of people have come to court, more will come, but it's a really hard area because some of these allegations go back 40, 50 years, and getting the evidence to make a successful prosecution is difficult. Reporting of sexual offences and rape has gone up. The research suggests that rape hasn't increased, that sexual offences haven't increased, but increasingly people have been prepared to come forward. So as well as putting extra resources into terrorism, we've had to put extra resources into what's called public protection. And the third area of real growth is around cybercrime. You are more likely now to be a victim of crime online than you are on the streets. And again, we're putting extra resources into that. The issue around cybercrime is where you put those resources. If you're a victim in Eastwood, we know you're a victim in Eastwood, but we don't know where the offender could be. Certainly not probably in Eastwood, maybe not even in the UK, maybe in Canada, maybe in India. And there's a big discussion going on around the best way to move forward on cybercrime. So, as I say, in real terms, crime's been going down. People don't accept it, but that's the case. But the nature of crime has changed tremendously. Let me just make one final point. We've got a new Chief Constable, Craig Guilford, who starts formally on the 1st of February. He's knocking around a bit from the 16th of January. I know that Steve is in his diary for the 19th of January. Whether that's a good sign or a bad sign, Steve, I'm not sure.
I'll let you know.
But I think he's going to bring new ideas and new momentum to Nottinghamshire Police. So broadly, that's where we're at. I'm very happy to kind of answer questions. I know there are one or two. Listen to comments. It's difficult. It's hard. We're having to change the way we do things. But the essential point to remember is that crime is at historic low levels. No, it doesn't feel like that. Certainly when you've been burgled, as many of us around the table have. But it is a safer place. But the new threats, terrorism, cybercrime, historic sex abuse, are changing the pattern of the way we police at the moment.
Yes, Bob.
I just thank you for what you said, and I'll
Yes,
wait
David.
for any questions from more people.
Yes, thank you. Interesting to listen to that. We're saying crime is coming down. I just worry that we don't see enough policemen on the streets. That's when crime comes down, when we have that vital person that uniform should command respect, whether it does now, I don't know. And I noticed that not far away, in a small, quite a big village called Selston, they're seriously looking at funding their own street patrols, whether it goes ahead or not, because they've just realised the costs, which may be outlandish, but that's for the simple reason that they've got reduction in policemen. And I think if you ask anybody over Eastwood, they'd say, don't change the pattern, keep the pattern as it is, and give us more coppers back on the streets. And I think that's what it should be.
Well, let's just talk about this for a bit, Dave. I mean, I'm a great supporter of neighbourhood policing. I know Steve is, present Chief Constable is, and the new Chief Constable is. And what we need to remember, that although you can make savings across the board, ultimately 80% of the police budget is spent on staff and police officers. And when you've made savings around the estate, around procurement, around doing things with other people, ultimately you've got to take some pretty tough decisions about the number of staff that we can have. One of the tough decisions that we took 18 months ago was to reduce the number of PCSOs, or that visible presence on the street. We've gone down from, at its top, 268. I'm not going to prejudice the budget, Keith, but I think you will be asked to make a decision to grow the numbers a bit again to 200 next year. Nationally, over the past 5 years, 20,000 police officers have lost their jobs. When I came into post 4.5 years ago, there were 2,022 police officers in Nottinghamshire. Today there's 1,922. So against 20,000 nationally, we've lost 100 here in Nottingham. We are recruiting. We haven't recruited for the past 2 years. but there's a cohort of new recruits coming in. Again, I don't want to prejudice the budget discussions, but I'm pretty confident we'll be recruiting again next year. But ultimately, this is a discussion we've got to have, and I welcome the discussion. You know, if you've got limited resources, you've got to make hard decisions about where you put those resources. We will keep officers on the streets, but actually, you know, investigating serious crime online is a bigger threat. It's a bigger threat than on the streets at the moment, and I think there's a discussion to be had with you and with others about whether we're better focusing on putting extra resources into fraud and cybercrime. The interesting thing is, you don't necessarily need police officers to do most of that. It can be done by properly trained people, but without the power of a warrant. Again, don't want to prejudice the budget, but you'll be asked to agree a move like that. But I can't promise you, and it would be wrong of me to come along and promise you tonight that you'll see a bigger presence of uniforms on the streets. Ultimately, Dave, it's actually not my decision.
I agree with that.
The decision about the deployment of officers is a matter for the Chief Constable rather than me. But I do have a say in it, because I do, in a sense, set the budget, so I have a handle on it too. But I'm a bit interested in people's comments about what the priorities should be.
Is it not the fact, though, that to make sure that the resources go to the right place, we need to have a look at, within the force, have we got too many chiefs and not enough Indians? I think that may be a problem.
Well, I'm very firm on this. I'm very firm on this. I mean, you go back a long way with Nottinghamshire Police, Dave. When I first came into post, or first got involved in this, we had Chief Constable and a Deputy Chief Constable. We've still got those. We've got to have those by law. We had 4 Assistant Chief Constables. Today we've got 1. There were 14 Chief Superintendents. Today there are 3 Chief Superintendents. The number of superintendents, so Steve's promotion chances going down. the number of superintendents has gone down as well. We've just done a piece of work around inspectors and sergeants. We could probably afford to lose some more. Be careful, Steve. we could probably compare with other forces. We have more inspectors and sergeants. They cost more than constables. Over a period of time, we'll reduce the inspectors and sergeants, but it'll be through natural wastage. And on top of that, we used to have a Director of Finance and a Director of HR, both of whom were senior posts, paid very well. We now share a Director of Finance and a Director of Resources, Human Resources, with 2 other forces. So 3 of us are sharing one, and we're doing quite a lot of work on back office costs. And Steve gets his salary. I know he's worrying about getting his salary now, but his paycheck comes from Northamptonshire Police, not here. So actually kind of sharing, doing things together is helping us reduce costs. And those reduced costs are available for the front line.
And I suppose it's looking at what sort of crime that's happening as to whether bodies on the street will make a difference to that crime or not. Your CCTV would help where you've not got the resources to put those police on the streets. Like I say, it depends what sort of crime's happening in what areas as to where you need those bodies.
Yeah, that's
as to whether what difference it makes.
And that's an operational matter, and Steve spends a lot of time talking to colleagues about where he should deploy his resources. We had a discussion earlier on. I won't comment on it. You know, do you always see police officers in uniform? No, you don't.
No, which I think is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. If you want to collect some intelligence and you don't want people to know, it's a sensible thing to go out without your uniform, isn't it?
Yes, sometimes I think it is, yes.
And I think, just picking up on something Paddy mentioned earlier, fair Dave, about the numbers of people in high visibility uniform, if you pitched Eastwood against a number of other areas within Nottinghamshire with regards to the number of crimes that are committed here, it would come out very low. Very, very low. So any resource allocation model that would judge things based upon pure binary data wouldn't stack up against various
I
other
think
areas.
you've got to look at the sort of crimes that are happening within the area.
Absolutely, that's why I retain still quite a large beat team here. And I say quite a large in comparison to Broxtowe South, which suffers a lot more crime than Broxtowe North does, but you've got comparable officers, exactly the same number of officers here as you have Broxtowe North, Broxtowe South. But that's quite right, I recognise the fact that some of the crimes that are suffered here are more serious and are more detrimental to people's quality of life.
And
Therefore,
sometimes the visibility, the invisibility may be better,
yes,
rather than the visibility.
Yes.
Having
Yes,
said
Brian.
all this, how many resources have we got in Eastwood? PCSOs and
You've got 4 PCSOs, and they're backed up by the neighbourhood police team, and on top of that you've got response cars, on top of that you've got the CID, and on top of that you've got the forensic, on top of that you've got the murder squad if you need it. So, you know...
Just 1 second though, Paddy. Forget all those. On foot in the town.
A 4 PCSOs.
4.
Yeah. And there's the...
No PCs then?
There's 3 PCs, 4 full-time PCSOs and 2 part-time PCSOs.
Thank you very much.
By the way, Paddy, we've got American now. We don't call it murder squad, we call it homicide.
I know.
Yes, Brian.
But I know everybody doesn't catch on. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Tipping, I'd like to say, Paddy, the last time you attended this council meeting, Hilltop, I was very pleased to hear you say, to quote, you said you was going to encourage police cadets recruitment. Unfortunately, I've had to sit and listen to all the debates on recruitment. The reason I was pleased at the time you was talking about police cadets was because my 16-year-old grandson had just joined the police cadets, and his father took him every Wednesday up to Gedlin, up towards that area, and sat for 2.5 hours waiting for him in his car. The first year, he went full of enthusiasm and gradually became disillusioned because he didn't feel that it was being fulfilled, the type of cadet training which he had. And something happened within there, they eradicated that. But what I'm going to say to you, Paddy, was this, that at the end of his first year, they was trained up about 3 weeks prior to the Armistice March from the forest into town. And he was really keen. On the Wednesday prior to the Sunday, they stood them down. The reason they stood them down, because of the 14 cadets, not one of them had got a full uniform. Not one of them. So that lad was quite disillusioned. And through myself and his dad and more, we got him to go on to his second year. Now that second year, he fulfilled it and went to Derby Uni. In fact, you presented him with a trophy, would you believe? Now, I won't tell his name, but what I'm saying is this. I think it didn't seem like a good example, really, of recruitment when you've got a young lad who is keen, is wanting to go, and is saying to his dad, well, have you gone on tonight? Oh, not bad, we've been kicking things around. Well, have you not? And it wasn't good. Now, I'm sure you've been made aware of that. But if we're going to get young coppers on the beat, I just ask you now, the question I'm going to ask you is this. Has that been improved? If, for example, a 16-year-old lad comes in to be a cadet last week, is he going to experience the same thing? Is he not going to have kids? Is all these cutbacks going to mean that 14 or whatever was in those cadets, didn't one of them, not one of them, have got a full kit? And that ain't good enough, is it?
Well, it's not good enough, but and I'm grateful for the feedback. helpful when people speak out and tell you how it is. There is an issue, and the issue isn't about the uniform. We can sort that out. The real issue is this, and it's a hard issue, is that people like your grandson want to come in and do things, but finding things that they can do is quite hard. But you'd be pleased to know that there's a review of the cadets going on at the moment to see whether we can make it a bit more attractive and a bit more exciting. Like your son, you know, I've been and watched what they do, and some of it, if we're honest, is pretty boring stuff. It's not exciting enough stuff. So there is a review going on at the moment about the way that we use your cadets, largely because of the kind of testimonies, the stories that you've been talking at the moment. And I think we can improve it. We're going to try and improve it, because ultimately we want a ladder, really, don't we? Getting
These are
people
the
from the
future.
bottom
Excuse me,
to
but
the top.
you know, the youngsters soon get disillusioned, soon get down. You pick them up, don't you? And through a lot of picking him up, he went on to that second year to excel. Really, he was one of about 3, I think. Which means now he's at that stage. He's now 18, and I'm saying to him, look, go for it. But he's saying yes, but it's that nasty tainted got of his first year. To quote Paddy, he said to his dad, it's more or less like a youth club, really. And he was disillusioned. He overcome it, but what I want to do, and I'm going to rest here at this, I want you, please, to make absolutely sure that this 16-year-old lad out there that's about to become a police cadet doesn't experience what he did. Because you're not going to get these coppers on the beat, are we?
So, as Steve would put it, I'm on the case. All right.
Okay.
I've heard this story more than once now, and as I said to you earlier on, the new guy who's in charge of the scheme is reviewing it. And the essential thing is to try and make it a bit more exciting than it is at the moment. Thank you.
Right then, Paddy, I'd like to thank you for coming this evening.
Oh, it doesn't matter. No, I was just going to ask.
Sorry, Luke.
It's all right. What ratio of PCSOs there are to police in any one area? Is because it's like we say, it's obviously there's 4 full-time. You know, obviously you do often see the PCSOs, but they haven't quite got the powers that police have, do they?
You know, and you make a fair point, and it's a point that Tony and Keith talked with me about. But in real terms, the cost of a PCSO is half the cost of an officer when you take the. And people like Dave and other people around the room keep say to me, we want to see more visible presence on the street. And the only way we can do it, really, is by using PCSOs rather than officers, and kind of deterrent effect. They do have some powers. They don't have the power of arrest.
You do think that my sister's a PCSO in Nottingham, you know, and she's been spat at, you know, and obviously if she was a policeman she'd slap the handcuffs on and we'd be in the back of the van, but you know, she's often gone to incidents and been on her own, or just heard another PCSO in vulnerable situations, really, and they haven't got those powers that a police officer has. But you do think.
Well, I think there's a discussion to be had. I mean, when we reduced the number of PCSOs, it was really painful, really difficult. You know, there was a lot of protest about it, and it showed how strongly people felt about the PCSOs. I mean, I live in a posh area. I live in Sneinton in Nottingham, and I'm really lucky because we've got a group of PCSOs who've been there since the year dot, and they know the good guys and the bad guys, and they know the way around, and they're part of the community, and they can make a difference. You know. As I say, ultimately it comes down to money.
And I think it comes down to respect. I think the old adage is, you know, I was always taught you didn't cheat your elders and you'd never that chap, a police officer, there was an incident a couple of days ago on Princes Street where a car had been dumped by a breakdown wagon right at the back of my car. I phoned the police because it was all smashed up at the front, so I checked my car first thinking, right, what's going off here? The next door neighbour told me that a breakdown wagon had literally dropped it there. It was for somewhere else, but he dropped it there, and he told her he could do that because it was a public road and he could do that. In the meantime, another car appeared and two gentlemen got out, went to a certain number of property. We spoke to those. The gentleman came walking down the street, went up to the car and asked them if they'd got an effing problem. I wouldn't have dreamed of doing anything like that. I mean, you can clearly see they've got, you know, the police, but that was his attitude. You know, just walked up, that's an effing problem. I mean, why did he come down? It was nothing to do with him. But, you know, so...
And I think, you know, there is an issue around respect, and a number of local councillors here, they, you know, take a lot of hammer. If you're a local politician, a local MP, you get a lot of stick as well, and you're a lot less deferential than we used to be. And there's the old adage, isn't there? Do unto somebody what you'd want yourself. And
I think I know where that might have originated from.
I bet you wrote it.
No, not me personally.
I know any presence is better than none if you see them and they are patrolling them. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. But, you know, obviously I just wondered on the ratio of PCSOs to actual police.
Well, just in broad terms, in number terms, as I said earlier on, today there's 1,920 police officers in Nottinghamshire. There's just less than 200 PCSOs.
I'll take one more question. Tony?
Yeah, just very quickly, Paddy, I've got to disagree with you on that one, because it's not 50-50 for PCSO to a constable. The National Police Federation did a survey last year and found it was actually cheaper for a constable in the first 4 years than it was for a PCSO. But I do understand your dilemma in that you can't get rid of the police officer, you can get rid of the PCSO when there's no budget possible.
I can see we're going to have a great budget debate. I've got notice of the question, and it's recorded.
Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you, Tony, for coming.
And Keith, can I just say thanks for a useful meeting. As a colleague here said, I came to Hilltop probably over 18 months ago. I'm more than happy to come back, and
yes,
you know, as I say, it's good to talk.
Well, you try to help you.
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Steve, thank you.
Steve.
That's all you'll get.
I'll just have a break.
We were talking about that email we're talking about. We need to look at that.
No, we don't.
Talking about
No, no.
we all the emails he sent about.
Yeah.
There's been nothing like that. So we'll sort it out tomorrow. Right, statement for the
Right, statement for the public. No, it didn't.
No, it's Claire.
Claire, update please on Pentridge.
Just wanted to the public speaking.
No, it's after this.
Pardon?
I just wanted to give everyone a bit of an update on meetings I've been having. Myself and Rebecca Buck have been having meetings with the Pentridge Revolution Group. It's the 200th anniversary in June this year, so we've been having a few meetings with them, and they just asked me to present something to the council just to keep you all in the loop, really. I won't read all of this, I'll try and keep it quite brief, but the focal point of the commemoration is in June, but events will be taking place throughout the year. It's the group themselves that are organising the commemoration events. It's not actually the town council, but they've invited the councils that are on the route to contribute. So there's guided walks and an exhibition programme that are really, I'll just give these out because they're quite, just let me have a little...
Pass Clay.
Just pass them down.
Oh yeah, pass them down.
Okay.
So this is a mock-up of one of the boards that will be featuring in the South Wingfield part of the route. So yeah, they've said there's several ways in which the Eastwood Town Council can lend its support to the project. So I'll just run through these. There's only 4 points. The first one is to help publicly support the events that are being organised. So that's sort of helping them with letters for funding supports and sponsorship. They've asked possibly to use the Town Council offices for a pop-up exhibition around the time of the commemoration in June. Helping to publicise events in any official council publications, so on the website, putting posters up in the office, and anybody that can help with networking with local businesses to help with the guidebooks for the guided walks, sponsorship for those sorts of things, and getting rambling groups involved as well. And then they want to put a board up, a permanent board. There are going to be 18 altogether that are along the route, but they want one to go in Eastwood, which will be somewhere near the Sun Inn. And they've given me a breakdown of the costing of what that could be, but I think that'll be something that I can show you if you want to have a look at it. But I'm not too sure how we go about what we can do about helping them with that. And basically, they just want anybody to get involved. There's a really good website. So I'm going to have another meeting with them in the next couple of weeks, and that's about as far as we've got so far. So it's a kind of an ongoing thing, but they just want us all to...
Yep.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you for that.
That's all right, that's the same.
One question, Tom, are you going to keep that bit slow?
Yeah.
Have we?
Right, it's questions
We've had it then, haven't we?
from members of the public. Any questions? Yes, Brian?
Right, sir. Just coming up about this Pentridge one. We went to the first meeting about 3 years ago in Pentridge and met up with all the people that was concerned with it. Now, it's usually one of them things when you get, there was 110 people at the first meeting, everybody wanted to do this, that and the other, and the figures that they was asking for was the lottery money for about 500,000. So all of a sudden, the next meeting, they finished up at 12 at the same meeting. Now, we're saying with most of these things that gets organised, it's been left and left and left and left. And now, the time you meet them again, it'll be February. That's you've got February, March, April, May, and it's the very beginning of June. So you've got 4 months.
This is all, it's already been organised. They've got everything in place.
But have you got everything in place from Brinsley to Gilbrook?
Well, we're not taking charge of any of the commemorative events.
Ooh.
There's a separate group themselves that are doing that. So I can...
Yeah, it started out as being 4 individual groups, right from Pentridge, right through to Bonson.
Well, yeah, they've got, there's an actual group themselves, the South Wingfield and Pentridge.
Yeah, that was the group we were in.
Yeah, well, they still exist. They are still organising this, and there's still quite a substantial amount of people working on the group, and they've come up with quite a remarkable...
Have they told you about the tapestry they're doing?
I've heard about it, yeah.
You've only heard about it?
Well, I'm not part of their group. Yeah. I'm just working for the council to help.
Right. So, looking at it then, the group that I'm in, we was going to do something as well. Now, we've come to the council 3 months ago and asked if you two ladies would like any information regarding this Pentridge.
Well, we've got the information from the group that are organising it, though. We're not taking any charge in organising the event. That already exists. So if you need to get in touch with them,
we're already in touch with them.
Oh, well, that's all right then. I think
it was Eastwood we was thinking about. what is Eastwood doing? Because sunning is one of the main things of this Pentridge March, and it finished up at Gilbrook. So actually, it comes from Brinsley, is the stage, the last and 14th, to there, and hopefully, when it first started, that this town council was approached when we was up at the church at the top, wasn't we?
We've now got things asked by the group. One of them was a fairly big budget item, which until I've cleared the budget, which we're doing in the February meeting, I can't say yes or nay on, which is very difficult. Budget this year with the grant from Broxo being reduced by so much. But all the other load cost sections of the budget, I think at this meeting we can more or less give the go ahead.
Because it's not a thing to
this
do.
council will support them.
Because it's an ongoing thing.
And
It's not
write a
just
letter of
getting it
support.
done for June.
That's no problem. All the rest of it, that's, I say, using this place for an exhibition.
As long as they pay for it.
Well, yeah. But it's not. There are things that we can easily do and accommodate. The one big in the issue is about is for the notice boards, which are seem to be rather expensive.
Right, sir. The other point, I've got 2 minutes. Normally, I sit here and pass comments, which sometimes aren't all that good. But over this Christmas period, we've had a very, a lot of comments on what individual councillors have been doing for the public. Mentioning no names, there's certain councillors been to nursing homes for the Christmas bazaars and for the Christmas parties. One councillor was in there 5 hours, taking the blunt of a lot of jokes, which everybody was happy and going. Then there's certain councillors that's invited the local residents that had not much chance of getting a Christmas dinner into their own home to provide them with a Christmas dinner. There's also, if you've read in the local advertiser, the Age Concern open on Christmas Day. Now, all these people, in a roundabout way, I'd like to thank all you councillors for all this. As individuals, a lot of the people don't find these things out. I mean, you take the gentleman and lady that's had these two in the house for Christmas dinner. How many people know in Eastwood? They don't. But it's not the publicity one, it's just the thought of it. And we do call the councillors en bloc at times, because as I've said before, as individuals, we're the best set of councillors I think you could get. And I've got again to say, from all 2 or 3 nursing homes and local people, we thank you very much over the Christmas period. Because without your help, the Christmas would have been very dull. Thank you again.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Planning update, please. Noted. Noted. Update on Nottingham Police and retail area as regards lease.
I had hoped at this meeting to be announcing that the police lease was fully signed off. It's signed off from our side. You probably heard me have a dig at Paddy to get his finger out on his legal team, and the retail is moving forward now.
Yes, that should be done by end of this week.
End of this week, our lawyers are saying. It's fairly straightforward process. And that's where we are with that. I'll take any questions, because it's in front of Arthur's waiting for them to
just to be noted, really. It's something work's being done on the asset.
From Bob again.
Yeah.
Right, number 11, Bob.
A special meeting of the town council. Mid-morning, we suddenly had a crisis. We set the meeting for next Monday, and then realised that next Monday clashes with something that's going on in the town.
You mean on an operation?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
Is that the clash?
No, we delayed it because of that, David. David, we delayed it because of that.
No, it's Monday's the Poppy appeal. I think you Sue.
Yeah,
Um,
down on the list.
We're invited, but if you like to come to the convent, I'm sure I can.
Oh, you are in the
challenge
convent.
you to.
Oh, right. Well,
You're not
well,
going until the week, middle of the week.
23rd.
Yeah, well, this is Monday, 16th.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Probably I've got my crutches now, so I've got to come and practice.
so the special meeting is being put back a week so it doesn't clash. Also,
So when is it now?
23rd.
23rd.
Where you are?
I don't agree with that. Sorry. I need to have my say on
We've
this.
had an email
Yeah.
Yes, I think we have.
Yeah.
David, I saw it on tonight before I was coming out.
I was just making sure that the whole
Needs
council
retracting.
knew of the change of
Needs
date.
retracting.
No, it's not.
There was a meeting on Friday.
7
There's a
o'clock
meeting
at
on
night.
Friday as well.
Well, he's on about
There is
the
also a
extraordinary
meeting at
meeting.
10 o'clock.
Oh, carry on.
At 11 o'clock.
11
rather,
o'clock on
this
Friday.
That's right.
But that's just to let the other parishes around us know
Yeah.
what's in
Yeah.
the document. Has everyone had a copy of the document and that they can access?
Yeah.
Does anybody want any additional copies?
No.
If so, let the office know, please.
Yeah.
Mind yours are printed off. As I promised, you had some light reading over Christmas.
That's it.
Well, we'll not go into that. I'll save you that for Monday, but obviously that's not good.
That's all I'm saying on that subject.
Do you not Skype it?
What?
Do you not Skype it? Because you're not coming on the Skype.
I
On the hospital.
don't know if you know about our hospitals like that. I'm sure in one bedroom will not be.
I think you can come.
Yes.
Do you think you might be able to?
Yes.
I'm not going to a Bupa resident or
Why
whatever. I'm a council lad who will own the NHS.
Download it onto your phone. It's quite easy. I spent quite a few times at Barsetton in the city hospital on Skype.
Yes, we
You
do.
know, I've got the original 3G phone line. I can't update anything on it, so I might go and talk with you on that. You can do that. That'd be good. Otherwise, I might have a problem. Oh, what about on my tablet?
Tablet?
Yeah, the
Same.
tablet. Oh, yeah, I could on my tablet.
Stick a pair of headphones in and a mic, and you can sit there
Super.
and you whip on the screen.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll do that. Thank you.
What's all of it saying?
The asset list, the asset list.
And it's now number 11.
Yeah.
The asset list.
Asset list.
It's something we've done in the last month, 2 months of the year.
Yeah.
It's something that needs doing every year or so.
Noted.
It's as before, virtually the same.
Noted.
About 4
Noted.
years ago.
Sure, submit now.
Right,
Yes,
the RFO's not here, so basically it's the report on the Remembrance Day 2006 accounts. You've got a copy of them. We have got slightly over budget, and that was due to the fact that we had to pay increased costs because the police weren't involved. We had to pay increased costs on the traffic management. We also had to introduce the hire of radios, and so there were the additional costs that we had to incur. But any comments on what's been presented, really? Because that's basically the report.
Nope.
No, I think that's
Noted.
okay.
Okay.
One little point, because we didn't come out and do anything, can't we just re-invoice the police with an extra cost invoice, tell them that's over and above our budget due to attendance?
Fine.
We've asked Miss
Or send one
opportunity.
direct, send one direct to pay it.
I'm going to say we've asked Miss the opportunity while they're here.
Yeah. Right. Reports from Town Council.
Reports from Town Council. Any? No. Reports from matters concerning Borough Council. No.
County Council, sir.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that one. I have a update for County Council, and that is Leecroft Primary. It's all been passed now, and they hope to have the building in operation by 30th of October 2017. Finished.
It's a fast bill, isn't it?
Paul?
Yeah.
Note a declaration of interest on that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Isn't there any updated changes into that plan?
Oh, no, it's just the email that I've had today to state that it's happening now. What's in between that?
We're still querulous of how they're going to get in and out. What they showed on that original drawing they gave us is going through some double iron gates now. I
No.
don't know if that's going to be the main entrance or not.
No.
We need clarification. I've asked many people keep saying to me, where are they going to get in? I said, well, obviously on here, it's through them gates that are now locked off. I got a Scott.